What's up, everybody? P69 1000 here. Today, I thought we would discuss something interesting and kind of a strange. It's an alien sighting from Kentucky. And it's interesting because it could potentially be aliens or goblins. And I know that sounds weird. A lot of people you guys are probably like, what are you talking about? P69 1000, he's gone crazy. Now he's talking about goblins and aliens, but we're going to get into it and discuss it. This should be a really fun video. I'm excited to do this one, and I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I'm going to enjoy doing it. Why are aliens so often depicted as little green men with bulbous heads and oversized eyes? The mythology began, in part, on the night of August the 21st, 1955, when a large extended farm family called the Suttons arrived breathlessly at the Hopkinsville police station in southwestern Kentucky. Their story of a terrifying siege by otherworldly beings would become one of the most detailed and baffling accounts of an alien close encounter on record. Notable for the large number of witnesses, nearly a dozen, the duration of the encounter, several hours, and the close proximity between witnesses and creatures, sometimes just a few feet away. The incident quickly became regional and even national news. The alleged encounter occurred on the Sutton's farm in the tiny rural hamlet of Kelly, Kentucky, where the family lived in an unpainted tree-room house without running water, telephone, radio, TV, or books. Of all the details of their story, the UFO landing and the appearance of small alien creatures, one fact is indisputable. When the 8 adults and 3 children arrived at the nearby Hopkinsville police station at about 11 p.m., they were genuinely terror-struck. Quote, "These aren't the kind of people who normally run to the police for help," unquote. Police Chief Russell Greenwell later told investigators, quote, "What they do is reach for their guns," unquote. Yet here they were, women and children, hysterical, and one man with a pulse of 140 beats per minute, measured by an investigator. According to accounts given to the police, at about 7 p.m. on the hot Sunday evening, Sutton family friend Billy Ray Taylor was fetching water from the backyard when he saw a silver object, quote, real bright, with an exhaust, all the colors of the rainbow, unquote. As he later recounted, it came silently toward the house, passed over it, stopped in the air, and then dropped straight into the ground. Taylor, 21, and his 18-year-old wife had come from Pennsylvania to visit Lucky Sutton, with whom he had worked on a traveling carnival. The Suttons, 50-year-old widow, told her 2 sons and their wives, Glenn Lankford, her 2 older sons and their wives, a brother-in-law, and the widow's 3 younger children, 12, 10, and 7, didn't take Billy Ray seriously, laughing off his UFO encounter. An hour later, alerted by the dog's incessant barking, Lucky and Bill Ray went to the back door and made out a strange glow, in the midst of which they spied a small humanoid creature, about 3.5 feet tall. It had an, quote, oversized head, almost perfectly round, its arms extended almost to the ground. Its hands had talons, and its oversized eyes glowed with a yellowish light, unquote. The body gave off an eerie simmer in the light of the night's new moon, they said, as if made of silver metal. Terrified, the 2 men grabbed a 20-gauge shotgun and a .22 rifle and fired at the little man. Its hands now raised as if it held up at gunpoint as it came toward the back door. They reported it then did a flip, scrambling upright and fled into the darkness. Shortly after, the men saw a similar creature appear in the side window and fired through the window screen. Still, they seemed impervious to bullets. The little man again flipped and disappeared. It went out in the hallway, and crouched next down to Billy. When I saw one approaching the door, Miss Langford told Isabel Davis, author of an extensive report called Close Encounter at Kelly and Others of 1955, quote, "It looked like a 5-gallon gasoline can with a head on top and small legs. It was a shimmering bright metal like on my refrigerator," unquote. The drama escalated when Tyler stepped outside under the small overhanging roof, and those behind him saw a claw-like hand reach down and touch his hair. Creepy, right? The group screamed and pulled Tyler back while Lucky shot above the overhang and then at another similar creature in a nearby tree. It fluttered to the ground and then scurried into the woods. The Suttons moved inside and spent several hours listening for movements, hearing mostly occasional scratches on the roof. At 11 p.m., the whole group ran for the cars and hightailed it to the Hopkinsville police station at top speed. After the local police chief called for backup, his team was joined at the Sutton farm by the whole police station. Military police from nearby Fort Campbell, that's a big deal, and a photographer from the Kentucky New Era. There, investigators found shell casings from the gunshots, but no other evidence. Neither could they find proof of heavy drinking. According to the Sutton family, quote, "liquor was not allowed in the farmhouse," unquote, which was not uncommon for those times. Most people were very religious back then, and they didn't really drink heavily, or at least people like this, that farmers and things like that. Once the police and others left, though, the creatures returned between 2:30 a.m. and daybreak. Miss Langford said she saw one glowing repeatedly beside her bedside, its claw-like hand on the screen. In the following days, after radio stations and newspapers, including the New York Times, reported the incident, hundreds of curiosity seekers descended onto the farm, often ridiculing the Suttons as ignorant when, quote, "no trespassing," unquote, signs proved useless at discouraging them. The family tried charging admission, 50 cents for entering the grounds, $1 for information, and $10 for taking pictures. After that, skeptics blasted them as fortune-seeking fabulists. As the Kelly story spread into the world, it took on a life of its own. The number of, quote, "little men," unquote, grew to a dozen or more. A few years later, the little metallic men were conflated with an eastern Kentucky woman's report of a flying saucer and a 6-foot tall man in green, helping launch the myth of little green men. The day after the incident, police investigators returned to the farmhouse, searching for evidence of a saucer landing, footprints, blood trails, a scratch, mark on the roofs, anything they can do to prove what happened. They found nothing. Bud Letwith, a local radio station employee, interviewed the adult eyewitnesses and made drawings based upon their accounts. According to Davis, he was impressed by their remarkable, specific, and constant readiness of the impressions of the little men. While the incident eventually attracted the attention of the Air Force UFO investigation program Project Blue Book, documents suggest that its team never officially pursued the matter beyond checking in with their Fort Campbell counterparts who had been briefly at the scene the first night of the event. One of the most thorough investigations of the Kelly incident was undertaken in 1956 by ufologist Isabel Davis and published several decades later by the Center for UFO Studies, a group founded by astronomer Dr. J. Allen Hynek, Project Blue Book's civilian investigator. Her nearly 200-page report, co-written with Ted Bullock, includes detailed maps, drawings, documentary records, summaries of similar accounts around the world, and interviews with several Sutton family members and police investigators. Davis summarized the latter's concern about the lack of physical evidence, but to her reckoning, none of the possible explanations were a deliberate hoax. While questions arose about whether the young men were exaggerating, Davis's strong impression after meeting Miss Langford was one of a somber, nonsense person who abhorred the limelight and had no reason to lie. None of the witnesses, Davis noted, had any history of making preposterous allegations. In 2006, Joe Nichols, Sr., researcher fellow of the International Committee for Skeptical Inquiry and self-styled paranormal investigator, reviewed the accumulated evidence in the article entitled Siege of the Little Green Men, the 1955 Kelly, Kentucky incident. In it, he raised suspicion about what he called Billy Tyler's embroidered testimony. He matched Tyler's UFO sighting with similar reports from the day, which suggested a small meteor in the vicinity. As for the little men, Nickel floated an explanation used for other alien encounter stories, owls in particular. The great horned owl, aka the hoot owl, has long wings that could be mistaken for arms, along with talons, yellow eyes, long ears, and round head that might also match the little man description. As for their metallic shine, Nichols suggests that they could have easily been reflected in the moonlight. But while hoot owls are known to be active at dusk and extremely aggressive from time to time when defending their nests, some investigators question characterizations of the creature as hostile. To some, their behavior that night in Kelly appeared to be simply curious. Now, that's the end of the article. I want to address that last thing. People try to write off things that they can't understand. Now, we've talked about this before on this channel because we deal with the supernatural, the paranormal. The universe is a very vast and large place, right? So we cannot, being in a very small planet in the universe, a very tiny corner of this massive universe, pretend to know everything that goes on in the universe. That's asinine. To even presume that is just madness, really, if you think about it. It just doesn't make any sense. For this guy to be so disrespectful, and to me it is kind of disrespectful, because these are farmers, okay, in Kentucky, in a rural area of Kentucky. They have no reason to lie. Why would they? I truly believe they saw what they saw. I don't know. It had to be, I think, personally, it might have been aliens. It might have been life forms from another planet. I don't know why they came to the planet. I don't know why they happened to go there, of all places. Maybe they were lost. Maybe they were just lost. They didn't even mean to come here. Who knows? We don't know what goes on in the universe. The universe is so vast. It's insane for us to believe that we're the only life forms in this massive universe. That's just simply not the case. At least I don't believe it is. But to sit there and, like I said, I mean, that's normal. We've seen this with all kinds of different, supernatural beings. They try to explain vampires away with science, or aliens in this case away with science. Trying to sit there and say that these are owls. Come on, that doesn't even make any sense. These are farmers. They've been farmers their entire life. I live in the South. I think I know what an owl looks like. I'm pretty sure they knew the difference between an owl and some kind of extraterrestrial being. And funny enough that these guys were called the little green men, the aliens, because actually, according to the family's testimony, they were actually silver. They weren't green at all. So that's a strange thing. And I just really thought that this was an interesting story. And to my knowledge, I could be wrong, other than Roswell, this is one of the most baffling UFO reports that I believe I've ever really read. And it's, to me, like I said, I believe what they say. Um, I believe they say they saw what they saw. I believe they really did see it because they're farmers. They lived a simple life, an agrarian lifestyle, and really had no reason to lie. And these just don't seem like people to me that were wanting to be in the limelight, that wanted, fame and publicity. These were people that like to live a simple life. And I think that they just had something very strange happen to them, very unique happen to them. And like I said, I mean, when you have people like this, and the sheriff also, made a good point. These are people, and I know people like this as well, that grab their guns. They don't go to the police. They grab their guns when there's trouble, or something like that. But for these people, I believe, to go to the police and be terrified, and for the one man to have 140, heart rate or whatever it was, that to me suggests that they were legitimately terrified. These people really did see something, probably from out of this world. And the silver, like the silver as they described it, it could have been, I mean, I don't know, obviously I wasn't there, but could have been spacesuits. If other life forms on other planets were to see our astronauts dressed all in white with a helmet on the glass, they would probably describe them as white beings. They wouldn't know that they were suits, just like these people probably did not know that these things were suits, spacesuits. So that's just my opinion. I do believe this is a real story. I do believe this was an actual alien encounter. What these beings were doing here in Kentucky, who knows? Like I said, it could have just been as simple as they were lost. But I hope you enjoyed this story. Let me know what you think in the comments. Peace, love. I love you. I love you all, and have a great day.